What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 3 and Out YouTube page. I'm John Middlekauff, and we are talking football all day, every day. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends. Let's roll, baby. Colin and I talked about Brady, and he gave his thoughts. I said I thought he was pretty bad. Wasn't trying to one game. It's not the end of the world. But the one thing, and I've been texting with a lot of friends, watching Sunday Night Football, I do wonder what Tom's pitch is going to be. Because I thought about it like, who are the greatest announcers of my life? Well, John Madden, by a country mile, is the most popular, the most famous, and easily the best. And then I think in terms of recent memory, the highest compensated, and just the most entertaining, people nitpick him all the time, but we're Gruden and Barkley. I think, and I was really hard when they hired Drew Brees. I'm like, this is boring. I remember Matt Ryan doing games last year. I'm like, this doesn't work. These guys were great football players. Matt Ryan won an MVP. Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer, shattered some records, was awesome for like 15 years. But being good at that does not make you entertaining. And the one thing I hoped, because Tom was such a good teammate, he's such a guy's guy, I do think it's difficult for that to come out when you're not used to it. Like talking on a mic and being entertaining, whether you're calling a game, whether you're a radio host, whether you're a talk show host, whether you're a podcaster, is not easy. It's why a tiny percent of people that do it are successful in terms of make money and get people to watch. It's hard. I can count on like two hands the people that I think are really entertaining either on TV or radio/podcast. It's difficult to do. So the more I thought about Tom Brady, of course he was kind of bad today. Like it's just, he's never done this. He has done these trial runs when no one is watching and the game has already been played. Who cares? That's impossible. The only way to get better at anything, that's why I've always been a huge believer of playing young players, is through experience. Now, the hard part is as a player or like a manual worker or something, like you can just kind of just keep doing it and physically go at it. This is not one of those things. Like Tom, the overall percentage of people that watch football is large, right? Relative to all other television shows. It's millions upon millions of people. I saw like 30 million people watch Thursday Night Football. I'd imagine tonight the number is very similar. You have a lot of people watching. And you watch Collinsworth. And I bet if I got on Twitter or Reddit or something, you'd see opinions all over the place. He's just loose. And he's fun. And he talks a little bit in football lingo. But there's a reason that the X's and O's shows have never had any success on television, in podcasts, even on the blogs. Because that stuff's boring for anyone who is not a die hard football guy. And unless you're truly doing it for a living, it's like it's not going to resonate. So what resonates with people is much more surface level with entertainment value mixed in. And I think the hard part for Tom over this next season is like, how can you just loosen up? How can you just kind of be a little bit more relatable? And then it kind of hit me. I do think it's going to be difficult for a guy who is as rich and famous as Tom Brady to be relatable in that setting, even if he could have a beer with me or you and be relatable. Because I bet he could. I bet Tom Brady could come over to my house, sit in the backyard, have a beer, and we could have a pretty easy conversation. But I think in that spot, when he's feeling the pressure and he hasn't had a job like this with this many people watching, besides being a player, when he's been less prepared. I mean, when he was playing for the Tampa Bucks, he had 20 plus years of playing, being coached by Belichick, being coached by guys like Charlie Weiss, Josh McDaniels, Bill O'Brien, playing in the biggest games. He'd seen it all. And now, like Kevin Burkhardt, who's the ultimate pro, who's been doing it forever, is like really smooth. He's fantastic at his job. Tom Rinaldi. I mean, nobody is better at his job than Tom. But that's all these guys have done. And then you put Tom in there, and all he has going for him right now is he's Tom Brady. He's really famous. But you're watching him, you're like, where? what's this? What's going on? And I do defend him like it would be a tough situation to be thrown into, and nobody, I don't care how rich you are, unless you're like Jeff Bezos, is turning down almost $400 million to call football games. But I don't know what his pitch is. Whether you like Tony Romo or not, and listen, I've been up and warm and cold on the guy. He has a pitch. He's really fun. He's really energetic. Chris Collinsworth, somewhat similar. He's kind of the old uncle who's just like, God, this guy's just having a good time watching ball. Aikman, kind of like an old school red ass. He will light people up. Tom was lighting nobody up today. I mean, Deshaun Watson is an embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment for the NFL. Think about it. He got one of the most historic trades we've ever seen in terms of draft compensation. He got the biggest contract in the history of the league, and he's a bottom 5 starter in the NFL. Like it's a joke. And everyone, there is not a football fan today who was watching that game that wasn't texting with someone being like, what is this? And Tom was like, yeah, he just needs to work a little bit more. He just needs to get a feel as a group. Like, no, Tom, this guy blows. 30 million people on their couches are literally all saying it. Maybe there's a few. It's like, well, he's got some backup offensive linemen. He's being paid $60 million a year to run around if he's getting chased. He can't even do that anymore. And it's like, you got to be able to say something. If you're not going to be the fun guy, right? You're not going to be Collinsworth like, oh, Mike, gee, Gibbs. You got to be Aikman would have taken a blowtorch right there. So you got to be one or the other. And it feels like, I don't know if Tom, well, I know he doesn't know because he doesn't have a style yet, but he was just styleless. There was nothing. It'd be like a pitcher who just, what do you want to throw? It's like, I don't know. Well, you got a fastball, you got a changeup, you got a curveball. Like, we got 2-strike count here. We need to get an out. What's your go-to pitch? I don't really have one. I just kind of, I don't know. It's a problem. And it's going to be a little bumpier than even I thought. Like, I like Tom. I told Colin that I admire the guy, his life story, the late round pick, how hard he works, how much people like him. But now he's an entertainer for me. He's calling one of the biggest games of the week every single Sunday. And it was atrocious. It really was. And he couldn't have a better crew. Could there be easier people to work with than Tom Rinaldi and Kevin Burkhardt? It doesn't get any easier. And he was bad. And I think sometimes I hate it when everyone's saying something. But I think this is going to be one of those where universally, everyone's in agreement. That was a rough watch.